Access to 9 here. I am going to be doing a review of Dragun of Red Eyes, a deck I've built here. It's definitely going to be a meta breaking card. So there are a bunch of other videos up on YouTube with deck profiles for this card, but the technique that I've used here, I don't see people going all the way through with it. They're coming at the deck more so from a Dark Magician point of view, or they're trying to optimize for the burn effect of this card. So this is basically a glass cannon of a deck. You have your kind of towers card. You can't target this thing, and it's just going to stand there and get bigger and bigger. But it also has a once per turn negation effect where you discard a card. So optimizing for getting this card out is what I think the deck should do, and then recurring that card if possible, and then filling everything else in with just meta. So to get started, I'm going to explain each one of my card choices, and then on top of that, why I didn't add other cards. So very first thing you got is, of course, Dark Magician. I tested this at 1, 2, and 3, and 3 is best. I tried to get it down as far as possible because it is most definitely a brick, and it causes lots of problems when you brick in this deck. You want to make your Dragun and go. Next up is Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. This is part of a combo with Chaos Emperor, the Armageddon Dragon, to clear off your opponent's board in case something goes wrong. And that wraps into Red Eyes Raven, which is something I don't see enough of in these deck profiles. So because you can't target this, that means you as the controller of the card too can't target it. There are very few ways to get it back. One way that you can get it back was with Raven, which you can ditch into the graveyard when you use Red Eyes Fusion. So it's some recursion built in if you feel like that's what's going to happen to cause you to lose the duel. Now this is a light monster also, and this is a dark, which sets up fuel for this. So if you draw it, of course you're going to immediately be going into Red Eyes Fusion as quick as possible via two other cards. So that possibility of not being able to set this up, it gets rid of that. And you can totally pitch this if you don't need it. Darkness Diablos, I decided to main deck this at just one copy, because your opponent there are a few ways to get rid of Dragun, and one of the easiest ways to get rid of Dragun is a Kaiju. And I most definitely feel once the meta format kicks up with this card in the meta, Kaijus are going to come back, and they're going to come back in force. So this is a kind of like a punishment card, because they'll try to give you a monster, and then they'll have something to run over it. And if it's not as strong a Kaiju as necessary, they're going to create a problem for themselves. Or if they tribute it, like Monarch Stormforth or something like that, they're going to have this monster that they have to deal with. Next up, we need fodder, and this takes care of another problem of how to get rid of Dragun, which is just to mow over it. This is kind of like a pseudo honest for the card. It can boost its attack up in a pinch or to finish out the game, which is wonderful, but it also puts itself onto the board as a special summonable body, which is very important for making Predaped, Verde, and Anaconda, which is our other method of getting to Red Eyes Fusion. Now, after that, of course, 3 Ash Blossoms because of the way the game's running, 3 Effect Veiler because of the way the game's running, and then Magician's Souls, which acts again as a body. And this is part of the reason why I decided to go with 3 Dark Magician instead of just 1, is because it's fuel for it. But at the same time, you can also pitch Princess Illusion Magician, because once you get Verde out, the deck's running in a different mode altogether. Of course, the mainstay of the deck is Red Eyes Fusion. Just hope your opponent doesn't call Prohibition, or you're pretty much screwed. Dark Ruler No More for getting rid of Clearwing Crystal Dragon, or similar kind of unbeatable cards. It allows for Dragun to do its thing and run over them if you're kind of in like a super tight spot. It can be a dead card, which for something so powerful is a strange thing to say. But I'm keeping it just at 1. I would like to increase it, but I just it landed on 1. Like, if emergency happens, you have usually enough time to kind of try to draw into it. The deck has a lot of thinning. Keep it at the theoretical 39 cards. And then this is another card I don't see enough people running, which is Red Eye's Insight. Red Eye's Insight is probably the best card that you can draw in your opening hand, because you can use it to ditch Red Eye's Raven and then use Darkest Diablos as your material. Or if you have in hand Chaos Emperor, then Odd Eyes Revolution Dragon. And that provides quite a lot of setup, which is great. You want your anti-hand traps. You really only need these kind of at the start to keep your opponent from stopping your plays. You want it at 3, you want it in your starting hand always, but also it's a great way to slow down your opponent. It's just a 1-for-1, and more decks have complex combos than what you're going to have. So it's a war of attrition and resources ultimately, and you're going to run your opponent out. So not only are you playing the beatdown, you're also playing the control, which is amazing. Infinite Impermanence, same reason. Now, getting out of sticky situations, especially with pendulums, if they get to set up first, and other types of combo decks that get to set up on you, there's usually not a lot of ways to get out of those. Evenly Matched allows you to do that rather effectively if you can draw into it. If it's in your starting hand and your opponent just sets up and you drop this, they're going to have a bad day. And if you're not using it, it's just fodder to get rid of. But amazingly, your opponent's going to try to build a board and protect their castle in a lot of situations, because they can kind of play around Dragun, and struggling evenly matched, it allows you to stop that. Summon Limit is usually a side deck card, but being able to main this because of space, you have a lot of space here to run anti-meta. It provides an opportunity to just stop your opponent from gaining or building that advantage. Lastly, we have a tech card. There's just enough space left, and this is a searchable piece of tech, which it's kind of a win more. There's not a lot of win more. It's more or less of make your game in there and stand on it. But this allows for you to bring back Dark Magician to kind of continue beating down your opponent, or to make more Draguns. In certain weird cases, Red Eye's Raven can recycle itself, and same with the Emperor, allowing you to have more staying power in the game, which is super important. And this helps with that. You can use the card to, and you can use the card in the same way that you would use Illusion. So when you compare Eternal Soul with this, Red Eye's Return it's more of a win more. You can't use the card to get out of a bad situation, but it doesn't put you into a bad situation. Like when this is destroyed, you can actually you can target one Red Eye's monster in your graveyard, except and summon it. So like you can tech in something else to like have that. But I've seen a couple of situations where once it's in the graveyard, you're actually able to target Dragun, and we have to wait on rulings for that, because that opens up more plays of what we can put here. But for right now, I'm using this because it brings Dark Magician back without hurting my field. Now, I'm running a Ghost Reaper in my side. You really only need one or two of these and one or two of these. I've never ever felt the need to make a third because I have Recursion. So the rest of this is basically things that can hurt the deck. The key things that can hurt the deck are Boar Sword and Boar Lord. Skull Dread, it can get really annoying, so it's something I've put in the deck also. and then Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos is something that I've used to actually get over this card, so I know that it is something that can take it out without using any card effects if you're able to continuously summon, or if you're able to hit something and then boost up and just kind of sit very still. But yeah, a lot of these cards you're gonna be scared of Unchained, because that can take out monsters summoned from the extra deck. And then Link Spider, if you end up with Dark Magician on the field, VSA said something like Magician's Soul, because you need to run over something first. Link Spider to like swap out. Link Karibo allows you to take one of your level 1s and convert it into a Link Karibo, and then later use Darkest Diablos, get him back out of the graveyard. So there's lots of little tiny plays that you can do, which is awesome. Mecha Fleet, you can actually use this against a Cyber Dragon player, but Mecha Fleet's going to be your big enemy against Cyber Dragons. You definitely want a Ghost Reaper that as soon as possible. Beyond that, the other major player is Orcus, and like just looking at that, I couldn't quite figure out a way to shut down that deck efficiently without causing problems for myself. It's mostly going to be summon limit and evenly matched for fixing that. Lancia for stopping Orcus, of course, and I've been testing siding in Gravekeepers with Necro Valley. I haven't had much chance to do that. Twin Twisters, because Mystic Mind's still running around all over the place. And then another summoning limit just in case things get out of control. And then a Royal Decree for like Altergeist. And similar trap-based decks. It just kind of shuts them down and you can continue on with what you're doing, because you really don't need your traps. These are just win more cards or to kind of stun your opponent for a turn. But a lot of the time what you're going to find is that you're discarding. Like, you don't even care about what cards you're using. You're just discarding them in the most efficient manner to kind of predict what your opponent's going to do. So it's not like a big deal. So I'm not running Magician's combination. I ended up not liking it, but it's something that I'm probably going to revisit in the future. It's not easy to set up. Getting Dark Magician onto the field is kind of difficult, and getting Dark Magician Girl onto the field is also kind of difficult. They require you to use a lot of combo pieces, which I'd rather have for 1-for-1 trades to break my opponent's combo plays and gain a 1-for-2 or 2-for-3 kind of advantage by breaking their strategy and them having to have time to recoup, which you're not going to, because I'm trading 1-for-1 advantage with Dragun. Eternal Soul, like I said, it can backfire. Magician's Navigation, I might consider it because it's like Lost Wind in that it has a graveyard effect, which is like really useful, but generally I actually don't really draw into Dark Magician enough to make this consistent, but I will revisit it. Dark Magical Circle, like I said before, it requires multiple pieces to work correctly, and space. It just takes up space I could use for a better combo to get to the parts that I want. More bad cards, of course. I did try the Servant's Engine. I actually like this. I like being able to stack Mahad on top of my deck and then having mana in the graveyard to, if a bad situation happens, to be able to bring her out. But I found the Chaos Dragon to be a little bit more efficient in getting me out of a bad situation, because it puts a monster onto the board. It doesn't wait for a specific situation to happen. But I would consider it as like a side option. But it does lower the consistency of the deck if you draw it, because it's just like you can't actually summon it unless something really bad happens. Mahad is like kind of a badass card. I really love it, but I couldn't find the space for it. That's it. And really the same with the rest of the Dark Magician cards. They don't really fit into the deck. This is honestly more of a Red Eyes build, and if we look at Red Eyes cards that I did not put in, there's not enough dragons in the deck to support this, and there's not enough low-level dragons in the deck to support a guard dragon deck. Additionally, I need that space to run Ghost Ogre, and I would rather just completely cripple my opponent rather than set myself up for a Nibiru. That's just dumb. Let's see. Like I said, Wyvern is the clutch card. I don't know why more people aren't running this. There's like one other option on the Dark Magician side of getting it back without targeting. A lot of the other options, they just don't work because it requires targeting. Gotta wait on that rolling. I ended up slowly dropping Black Metal Dragon because I noticed that getting to Verde was... I didn't need the deck thinning, and I could later just draw into the card, and it's not like a bad card to draw into. I don't necessarily need to search it. And then Blackstone, I'm not running any big Red Eyes cards, so I don't need it. The materials for these, none of them really match up. This one is like a level 6. I'm not running a level 6 or anything like that. This one's way too specific. So slash Dragon, there's no warriors in here, and that's really it. So of course, no targeting. This is the only thing that works. So that's the deck. I really think this is going to be a game changer. So yeah, I love the deck. I actually just love the deck, and I hope to see it in the meta once Dragun is printed. I think it's going to be a major game changer where Kaijus and Unchained are going to be the only real ways to play the game, because this thing murders Sky Strikers and just stomps on Thunder Dragons, and Orcus is wonky against it, and they keep banning cards in it. So yeah. Alright, this has been Access Denied, Connection Terminated.